That's my concern with AI really in this space is just the speed that things are changing. Oh my gosh, deep fakes scare me to death.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Cybersecurity podcast. It's your host, Adam Tatunji, back at you guys again with another episode. And today I have my good friend, Gary. What's going on? Welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, good to be here.
How you doing, brother? How's everything on your end of the world?
We're out here in Ohio, just living the good life.
Nice, really cool. So, Gary, you're the Chief Information Officer. For everybody that's listening, full name over here, Gary Kern, Chief Information Officer at the Middlefield Banking Company. Give us a little bit more of a background on yourself, kind of how you got to where you're at today, and let's get that started.
Okay, well, I've been in IT since I got out of college back in, well, quite a while ago. And I've been a CIO at community banks for about 20 years now. I'm at my second bank. My first one was acquired, so that allowed me to become a free agent and find other opportunities. So I'm out here doing what I do and liking it, and I've been doing it for quite a while. So.
Nice. So, let's kick this off by talking a little bit. So, in terms of the banking world, right? What are start me off with common misconceptions in cybersecurity that you feel like people might see something, but you're like, nah, that's not the way to look at it. You should be looking at it like that. Do you?
I mean, I think they think that there is 100% solution somewhere, and then if there's ever problems, it's like, well, you guys must be deficient. I have a little bit of that Schadenfreudism that, hey, I'm glad, to some degree when huge corporations get hit with things I'm worried about every day, because it's like, I know that they have staff of 100+ people just doing cybersecurity stuff and they're struggling with it. So I think people believe that, you could just, put a lot of money and effort into it and not have to worry about it. But you always have to worry about it because there is no panacea. There's no simple answer. Even the governments and the strongest companies out there are struggling every day trying to keep up with these corporation actor states and other things that are, all they're doing is trying to find one little, crack in the armor that they can get through.
So, I mean, if you're saying companies with a team of 100 people are figuring it out, like I feel like people that might be listening, I'm like, man, I barely have 2 people on my cybersecurity team. That means I'm screwed. So, like, so what do I do? So, how do I stay up to date with all of these things that's going on right now?
I mean that's the perennial argument because you could throw a lot of money at the problem. At a certain stage, you get to 95% secure, and then you could throw a lot more money at it and then get to 96% secure. So there has to be that balance of being prepared or having your defenses up, but also being prepared for that what if. Something is going to happen, be it a small something or a big something. I need to know what I'm going to do then. I need to spend some time on not the if, but the when, and say, okay, well, I know that I have backups that are going to be good because they're offline, air gapped, immutable, whatever. I know that my operations can continue to function because we've done tests on offline processing, or what if the systems weren't available for 3 days, or if nothing else, we had a tabletop discussion. I know that I have resources to reach out to, like Sinex Link, or other SOCs, or people that I know can help me triage and recover and get back into business. It's so you have to take the perspective that I can be hit any day. I hope I don't have to be faster than the bear, but I have to be faster than my peers. I hope there's other easier targets they're going to get to, but at some point I'm going to be the vulnerable one. And I
So,
need to figure out the what ifs.
yeah, so I've been a rider for the past 10 years, motorcycles, right? And they in motorcycles they tell you it's not if you go down, it's when you go down. So
Right.
you dress up for the ride, and you dress up in a way where you make sure hey, look, it's gonna happen, just don't know when, and let's make sure that when it does happen, it's contained. Is that the same mindset with cybersecurity? It's not like, oh, you know what, I hope I don't get hit. It's like, no, I'm gonna get hit. Just make sure that when it does happen, I'm safe.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that way. I mean, you certainly hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. That's
Yeah.
why I'm in the job I'm in. Because they need, not only the information, department or the IT department, but they need a security department. They need somebody looking at that stuff, saying, let's tighten down the defenses as much as we can, but then let's talk about what happens when the defenses fail or
So
something happens.
you mentioned a couple things. I kind of wanted to ask you, maybe it'll pertain to this next question. In terms of non-negotiables that you feel like every company has to have, like if you don't have these things, you're just risking your life here. You might as well go chop your head off. So what are these non-negotiables? If you were to, let's say, list out five of them, do you have things that you go, okay, look, because there's certain security layers, even me, when I get on calls with companies, certain security layers, I'm like, this is like if you want to drive a Ferrari, like if you got the
Right.
money for it, do it. But like you're not gonna really risk a lot by not doing it. But I know there's certain things that if you don't have, that's a big deal. We got to talk. What are
I
those
mean,
things?
to me, one of the first things is you need to have employee education. No matter what your defenses are, the most prevalent way that bad things are likely going to happen is somehow somebody entices one of your people that have the keys to the kingdom to give them the keys to the kingdom. And so you need to make sure your employees are trained, aware, and understand the part they play. It's not just, hey, we have Gary looking out for cybersecurity. I don't have to worry about it. It's they're going to look for a weak link, and at some point they may find somebody that, they're just so customer service friendly that they'll just bend over backwards and do whatever you ask. And you can't have that. You've got to be skeptical. You've got to be common sense. You got to have some awareness of what's going on. So that's probably the first thing. Certainly you need to have an endpoint protection. That's the table stakes, but every 2 or 3 years they kind of leapfrog. The whatever was good 2 or 3 years ago, well, now there's more behavioral or AI or other analytics that are involved in it. That okay, because the bad guys have figured out the signature based endpoint stuff, and now you need to move to something else. So you need to be current. You need to make sure all of your stuff is patched. Patch management is probably, I think a lot of people hear about 0-day vulnerabilities. And that's because, every day, every week, a new vulnerability is discovered. And the vendors try to keep up with fixing those. But if you don't keep up with putting in the vendor fixes, you maintain that vulnerability for as long as somebody's randomly spraying something out there. So those are probably some of the key things. I mean, there's certainly a lot of stuff. You have firewalls that you need to have. You have different log management systems that you should be looking at and trying. You have to understand what's happening in your environment and what's an anomaly and what's not. But those are some of the key things that I think are important.
Awesome. So in terms of futuristic technologies like AI, or what's going on us in the world today, there's this conversation going around right now in terms of, hey, look, yeah, we're getting greater tools, but so are the hackers, so are the bad actors. They're also getting a lot better.
Right.
And you mentioned employee training to be number one. And I love that you brought that up, because I think really staying ahead of all these things, you have to just be close to the needle and be aware. Because even guys like us, I sometimes get phishing emails and I look at them and I go, man, this looks good.
Yeah.
Like I would fall for it. I have the story that I tell to a lot of people. When I ran Facebook ads, I get an email saying my ad account got disabled. And I look at this email and I'm like, this looks legit. The only reason why I caught it is because I obviously know what to look for. I looked at the sender. The email was just like funky. So I'm like, that's
Right.
not.
Something at gmail.com or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get really close. Like there's
Yeah.
there's been an email that came from at Facebook support, but I realized it wasn't a .com, it was a .con something, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh wow, dude, they're like, who's gonna catch it? You have to look for like such small details. So it's huge that, but in terms of like technologies like that, because if employees aren't aware, then probably executives aren't, or probably the company
Right.
isn't. And there's just a lot going on where like you got to really stay ahead. So what's your 2 cents on the way everything's evolving when it comes to like future tech like this?
I mean, really, it's speed. It's speed of what the bad actors can do, the speed of when they can, roll out new things. With, you used to be able to look for grammatical errors or typos or other stuff. They run it through an AI engine, and it sounds just like somebody from Google would send, or sounds just like Bill Gates would actually send. So it's the speed and the accuracy, and it just takes more attention. And I think that's where AI comes into play. I need AI to help me pay attention. I need AI to kind of dig into some of these things. As you mentioned, some of the Facebook ads or something. Had I gotten that, I'm not doing anything on Facebook. So it's like, oh, well, that Facebook. But if they hit the right person at the right time, hey, you're waiting for a package, or hey, you were having trouble with your Facebook, that's all they do. They send out, where's the slow person in relation to the bear? Hey, oh, here's somebody. Let me pull on that string and see if that gets me somewhere. And that's what the AI helps them do, is send out more and more frequent and better. And you just need to be on your toes and be diligent about, well, I was kind of expecting this, but my gut says there's something wrong. So you got to follow your gut, and AI helps you stay focused both on a positive side, but AI also helps you, it helps the bad guys say, I'm going to make sure I structure this so that I'm trying to get around all of those gut feeling filters that people have. So that's my concern with AI really in this space, is just the speed that things are changing. Oh my gosh, deep fakes scare me to death, especially when you hear about, voice and video. And you hear about things like there was a Hong Kong bank that he actually had a meeting with 3 deep fake board members to convince him to send $25 million to somewhere. He was looking at them on video. They were
Oh
reiterating,
my
yes,
God.
this is legitimate. And he sent $25.5 million to some bad actors somewhere. And because he saw them on his Zoom meeting or his, whatever, but they were deep fake AI bots. And it's like, that's frightening.
How good can those be?
Yeah.
I feel like the eye can catch that, no?
I mean, I think it's certainly getting better. You see some that are okay. Well, if the eyes don't blink, or it looks like they had 6 fingers, but they're getting better every day too. And bad actors, that's what they're spending their money on. Is I'm going to spend money on how I can get more money. And so they're not doing the freeware stuff. They're out. They'll actually buy and hire somebody to program this stuff for them. There's hackware as a service. There's ransomware as a service. There's, all the bad actors can go out and pay for these things that help them do stuff faster, deeper, quicker, with more support, more current technology, all of that stuff. And it scares the bejesus out of me.
Ain't that something? So, that's actually the first time I've heard that story. That's genuinely terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. It was a Hong Kong bank. You could probably find. I think it was $25.5 million. Deep fake Hong Kong bank.
Man, they gathered a whole board of directors, came together, sat up.
Yeah, senior management or whatever. It's like, well, I'm seeing the guy. He's telling me, yes, go ahead and wire this. We need to do this deal, whatever. And boom, it's like, okay.
I also, this got me thinking. I feel like maybe people aren't understanding when we say technology is advancing at an insane speed. People don't get what that speed actually means, So I think maybe they're falling for these things because they're like, oh, there's no way this is fake.
Yeah, right.
Like there's no way we have technology like that. Like, And I think people don't realize how, like, if you look back just the past 10 years to today, how like just something like the smartphone has evolved at such an insane rate. We have a freaking computer here, like this iPhone that I'm holding. It's a computer.
Right.
Back like 10 years ago, those things were like massive, 15
well, I mean, and 10 years ago, you could crop somebody's face and paste it on another body. but now it's just it keeps getting better and better and less obvious. And you could do it in a video fashion. You could do it in audio. You can get 30 seconds of somebody's audio and create a whole speech out of that that sounds like it's them. So it is frightening.
So, what are some technological advancements that hackers are utilizing today that maybe you think people are unaware of?
Well, I certainly think the deep fakes is going to be the main one. Running all of their scams, their schemes, whatever, through AI first. I mean, again, it used to be almost comical some of the phishing attempts you'd get if you weren't just, totally out of it. You could oh well, gee, I don't even know what that's trying to say. The words are in garbled form, but now they aren't. Now they're taking images from the websites and they're pasting the entire disclaimer statements at the bottom. All you have to do is run it through a copy machine, and it looks like it's an Amazon email. It looks like it's a Google email, UPS. So the technology, I think I'm hoping that the AI, investigative technology can keep up, because that's really the only way you're eventually going to be able to catch some of this stuff, or at least identify at risk things. Hey, we're 98% sure that all this stuff is good, but this 2%, we're not really sure. It could be okay. But somebody should look at it and make sure it was expected and it's from a trusted sender, it's whatever. So
so here's the thing too. I also want to add another thing for everybody that's listening. I also want to say, like, guys, the trusted senders themselves too could also be hacked.
Yes. I mean, we have had situations where there was business email compromise from a customer of ours that was sending us something that was infected. Thankfully, our systems catch some of these, but on the surface it looks, hey, this looks great. It's from a client or a customer or a vendor. It's an invoice. We get invoices from them all the time, but it was infected because they were hacked. And those are those linkages. Even 10 years ago, you were talking about the way hackers got into Target was through another vendor or through a back door, an HVAC system or whatever. So it's all those connections we now have. One of the things that I'm, needing to do more of is, we've always done third party management, vendor management, but we're into the fourth party management. And who are all the vendors that our vendors are using? And are we comfortable with them using, somebody from, North Korea or from Iran, or, it's like, because they're creating a vulnerability for us by our system connection to them. And so it's kind of like the virus. Everybody, they kissed, and we kissed. It's like, okay, well, mononucleosis is traveling because
we should call them OTD, online transmitted diseases.
Exactly right. It's all that weakest link stuff, and everybody's linked up now. And
that detail that like is getting you worked up right now. I feel like people don't understand because they see it from such a surface level, and they're like. They're like, oh, there's nothing going on around here. This looks like a normal day at the office,
And the bad actors are always looking for those degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like, okay, well, hey, if we get into Sophos or SolarWinds, think of all the people there, and okay, well, we can now get, if we have a vulnerability in Facebook, think of all the people that use Facebook and all that, that opens up to us. Or, if you think of all the technology you use every day, from, like you say, from your smartphone to your smart camera, that's wired into your network. If there's a vulnerability in that stuff, it's like, okay, well, that's kind of the weak link that they're finding to get in there. A little bit similar to the employee thing. They're looking for weak links, and whether it's technology or people. And that's what they're doing 24 hours a day. They have staffs of people. There's a lot of bad actor companies that just, the only thing they're doing is they're staffed to try to find vulnerabilities and get the next payday.
So tapping into some psychology here, I was reading up on something a while ago, from my own personal podcast, and it was talking about why certain people fall for tricks from, like, bad people, like, whether
Mhm.
it's someone out there looking to kill or do heinous crimes. Why is it that we fall for that? And the psychology behind it is because if you're naturally good, if your
Mhm.
tendency is naturally good, you can't come to realize that the way you think, the way you're wired is so different than this other individual. And so for
Right.
you, it seems so far fetched that somebody would go out of their way to go and commit that and do that. Cause you're like, I would never. That's like, why on earth would somebody even think that way? But I think in today's world, because we're so exposed to so much, that it's a bit naive for people to be thinking like that, these days, because you never know, and you never know where the next, not just attack. I mean, this is even not just for companies. This could also ruin a lot of lives too. People's lives are at stake also.
Well, in my line of business, the community bankers, we our mode of operations has always been, hey, we're the personal touch, we're friendly, you can come in, you can ask us, we'll bend over backwards to help you. You're not talking to a machine, that kind of thing. And so the natural customer service inclination is, oh, this person sounds in distress. They're on the phone. They really need this account balance. They can't find their PIN number. I need to help them. Or,
Ah,
and you're exactly right. It's that, hey, I feel like I'm just helping somebody. I'm not assuming I'm talking to somebody who's lying out their teeth to me that's just trying to get account information to go for that next step. So,
yeah, totally, man. What a crazy world we live in these days, huh?
yes, right.
So, a little bit curious in terms of, God forbid, a breach does happen. What are some? I know we're in the business of being proactive. So, for everyone that's listening, you should have something set up before a breach happens. But say we're in a world where, like, shit, we don't have anything. Like, we didn't anticipate this and it hit us. What are the steps that we take to remediate the issues? How do we kind of close this off?
Well, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You got to think of worst case scenarios before the worst case scenarios happen. You've got to make sure you have backups, and not only that you have backups, but that bad things can't happen to them. They're air gapped, they're immutable, there's in an encrypted format or whatever. You've got to make sure you can recover from them. You've got to talk about what do we do if we are down for 3, 5, 7 days, whether it's hit by lightning or hit by a ransomware attack. Either one, you hope you can recover, but it's not going to be in an hour in most cases, unless you're spending a lot of money on that mirroring capability. So you got to think about those things and actively work them and be comfortable with them before you need them, and hopefully you never need them. So that's, I think, the main thing I need to I try to think about is what if, what if, and that's it's again thinking like not when, or not if, but when. And when it happens, how am I going to be nice to my future self?
Yeah,
What will I have done today that helps me out tomorrow when that something, whatever it is, happens?
yeah,
And so that, I can't overstress that enough, that's the being prepared. What you do after an event really depends a lot on what you've done before the event.
totally,
um,
totally.
and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even if it's just having a lineup of, hey, I need to know who I call quickly, whether it's the FBI number, whether it's Cynics Link's number, whether it's the you know forensics are us. Don't have to look for that stuff when you're in the urgency of the moment. Have a relationship, have a pre-discussion. Hey, what if this happens? How do we interact with you, or can we interact with you? Can we move some of our operations over to this backup facility, or to our partner's facility, or to a peer bank? Work out agreements ahead of time. That's the best thing you could do to, if you ever get into a situation, is make sure you've thought about it ahead of time.
For sure, for sure. Gary, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for the value, the energy, the passion behind the subject. Yeah, yeah. This has been a really, really cool conversation. Before we wrap this off, what is some advice you can pass along to the next generation of security and IT leaders?
Don't be afraid to play and be curious and be creative. I think it's you got to get your hands dirty. You got to try out stuff. You got to experience things. Don't just live in a vacuum tube. Try to do stuff. Try to understand. Look at case studies and understand how those things could happen with rational people. A lot of times you look at things that happen and say, "Oh, well, I would never let that happen." Bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry for the language, but you know, all those people thought the same thing. And it's, what can you learn if you were in that situation? What can you pick up? So always be learning, be creative, be playing around with new tools, because you know that the bad actors are trying out the new stuff too. So the more we know about where we're going to be in 2 to 3 years, the better off everybody's going to be.
Love it. Love it. Where can people find you, Gary, if they want to connect, get to know you a little bit more?
I'm on LinkedIn, GC Kern. I'm on LinkedIn. They can certainly find me out there. So that's probably the best place to start. I'm on Twitter too. I think Gary C Kern out on Twitter. So, or
Really
X.
cool.
Sorry, Elon. X.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gary, for being on the show, my man. And for everybody that's watching, we appreciate you. If you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe for more content like this. And we'll see you in the next episode. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Bye.